Hey, what's up, y'all? Part-time adult. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Aurelio. Today's video is a heavy topic. We recently lost a rapper by the name of Young Noble, and Young Noble was part of Tupac's crew, the Outlawz, and he was 47 years old, 47, and decided he no longer wanted to be alive, and he was successful in making that happen. He had a self-inflicted wound, and apparently he was struggling financially and having mental health struggles. Now, I've seen folks have financial issues and then later it turns into mental health issues, and I've seen folks have mental health issues and then it leads into financial issues. So it's kind of like a chicken and egg thing kind of going on. But rest in peace to Young Noble. Men's mental health is something that, it's being talked about more often, but a lot of times, I'll admit myself, like, you're probably not gonna know everything that I'm going through. There's a very small group of people who know everything. Thankfully, I'm doing all right, and I mean that. I'm good. I just wanted to talk about it. Young Noble, born just outside of LA, and grew up in New Jersey. I know him mostly from his work with the Outlawz, but the song that comes to mind is Bomb First, which is the first song off of the Machiavelli album. In my opinion, one of the hardest first songs in hip-hop history as far as like the way to start off an album. And I think he was going at Nas in his verse. In doing my research, I never realized that on the bottom of the album cover it says like, this is in no way, portrayal of disrespect toward Jesus Christ. I thought that was interesting. I never saw that ever, or if I did, I don't remember. That's right, you're not gonna disrespect my Jesus. While I was doing research for this video, I was looking through his Instagram, and I see his like last 4 or 5 posts. They're like all positive, ones on like Father's Day, ones. By the way, he ended up committing that act on the 4th of July, and just a few weeks earlier, he was posting up all this stuff, about positivity and how God is gonna bless you. And he recently released a project with Stic, or Stic, I believe he's now from the group Dead Prez. Shout out to Stic, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but I met them back in the day. They were really cool. So shout out to Stic, and I'm just wondering, Stic, I hope you're doing all right. But I'm also thinking of having a project with somebody and then that person passes away. Like, how do you move forward with that project? And it's like an album and like a fragrance and I think a book. It's like one of these multi-packaged things it's got like different kind of experiences, not just music, which I think is pretty cool. But I can say as somebody who had a project and losing a partner, it's tough to move forward. Not to say he still can't perform and all that, and they have product that they can sell, which is good. But it makes me think of a friend of mine, a lady by the name of Chanel King, who I miss dearly. Chanel and I went to school together, and didn't know her very well in school because she was always in the editing base. She was in broadcast journalism. And back in the day, when you're in FAMU journalism school and you're doing broadcast, you're editing like 90% of your time awake. You live in the editing bay. But we got connected like on a deeper level years later by the lady who hired me to be the photo editor at the FAMU, and I talk about her in this video. And shout out to Wiley, love you, miss you, hope you're doing well. And she told me, hey, Chanel's going out there to LA to go shoot this, she's producing a show called Motorcycle Talk TV, which was obviously about motorcycles. And it was hosted by Ricky Gadsden, who I think is like the most successful drag racer in history. I think he's on like the Kawasaki speed team, or I don't know what it's called, but I think it's Kawasaki. And got to spend a week with her and him, a couple other folks, and had a really, really good time. Got to take a lot of pictures, and we just clicked. We clicked, and she was like, yo, like, we need to stay in touch. And one day she hits me up. She's working on a documentary. And mind you, she's got multiple Emmys for her work at ABC. She's worked at Good Morning America, Daily Mail, Al Jazeera. I'm sure I'm missing some stuff. She's produced documentaries, all types of stuff. She's world class and just an amazing human being. Or she was. And she hits me up and says, hey, I'm working on a documentary. Do you want to help me out with it? I said, absolutely. So you tell me, you put me in the game, coach, whatever you need. And that later turned into, hey, I think from what I'm hearing, from folks in the industry, I think we should make this into a feature film instead. No problem. You tell me what, put me in the game, coach, whatever you need. So I started writing a lot, and I put together a pitch deck and all that stuff. I created the world and all this stuff, and I had so much fun. And she was basically like my coach. She ran point for this project. Like if we had a meeting with BET is because she set it up. If we had a meeting with this director, this producer, is because she set it up. And she was like my coach. You know, she would tell me, you know, by page 3, this should happen. Within the first 10 minutes, this needs to happen. This needs to happen one more time over here on page so-and-so. And I got to learn a lot. And then eventually, we got some more feedback from a friend of mine who's a producer. And he said, this stuff is good, but it's too much for a feature film. Like, you're gonna wanna make this into a series for a couple of reasons. One, it's more content, just more content. You know, let's say you have 10 episodes, one season, that's 10 hours of content versus a 90-minute or a 2-hour film. So it's too much for this. So I was like, okay, and she was kind of hearing the same thing. Plus, that's what folks want. They want series. Forgive me if there's a car outside like beeping, so forgive me if you can hear that. Okay, we're back. And so we turned it into a series. So I wrote a pilot, looked fairly decent in my opinion. And we're trying to get folks to look at it. You know, time goes by. Like, this is over a span of, you know, like years. But some time goes by. The last time I saw her, I can't remember exactly how long, but it was maybe like probably less than a year, but before she passed. But I got a phone call like a couple of days before Christmas a couple of years ago telling me that she had died in a car accident. And I knew something was wrong because I got a phone call from somebody I typically don't speak to. It's actually Wiley. You know, we might text and say, hey, how you doing? Or, hey, I'm in town. I'm gonna come and see you. She told me that she passed away, and then a few minutes after I got off the phone with her, I got a phone call from my other homegirl, Cap, who's on the radio at Power 99, and she's just crying, man, just crying, and I'm just like trying to hold it in. And I say that, and I'm gonna come back to Young Noble. The reason why I say that is because when she passed away, it took all the wind out of my sails to continue with that project, all of it. There's a part of me that still wants to do it. There's a part of me that now that I don't have my point guard, I don't know how I'm gonna run the play. I don't know what play I'm gonna run. You know, I just kind of feel like lost. So I'm just like, well, let me do something that I can do by myself, you know? Because she was just so much more knowledgeable than I was. And, you know, I hope one day we can make that project come through. But shout out to Chanel, I love you, miss you. Her family called her Neek Neek. I never called her that, just because I just didn't know her like that. Just Chanel. And she was just so dope. Washington Commanders fan, you know, she's watching the game every Sunday. And, you know, yeah, when the next time the Dolphins play the Commanders, I'm gonna think about you. Hopefully we win. We probably won't, especially with the way Jaden Daniels is playing. But anyway, I say that because I'm wondering how Stic is doing now that you have this project that you just released and your other half of this project is no longer here. So to Stic, I say, brother, I pray for you. Pray that you're able to continue just pushing your project forward. I'll link to it below so y'all can check it out. Like I said, it's music, it's a fragrance, it's a book, it's a whole smorgasbord of stuff. Edie, I mean, one of the other members of the Outlawz, recently put up a post, I want to say it was on Instagram, and it read, today I got some of the worst and unexpected news imaginable. My brother and partner for over 30 years took his life this morning. Rest in power, Rufus Young Noble Cooper. I obviously am in no shape to talk about this right now, so please give his family and I some time to process this. Mental illness is a real battle being fought by so many. Check on your folks. And I could not agree more. Please check on your folks. Check on yourself too. Check on your folks. Friends, family, coworkers. I know it's not your job to look out for your coworkers, but even if you have just one shred of care for them. Now mind, I'm not saying if Susie in accounting is like not your cup of tea, like you ain't gotta check on her. But like, you know, you got folks at your job that you rock with. Like I have people at my job I legitimately rock with. Like check up on them. I remember back when I was in LA, I had a team of 4 that I would support, and I would always ask them how we're doing. We're doing our one-on-one check-ins, like how you doing, and people would really open up to me. And there was this one young lady who would always ask me. She would say, "You're always asking us how we're doing. How are you doing? How are you doing?" And she was the only person who ever asked that. And I remember on my last day at work, we had like this lunch where we all got together, and you know some of the kids came through and all that. And I was going around the table just saying what I appreciated about everybody. And when it came to her, I told her how much I appreciated her asking me how I was doing, and I told her, I was like, yo, like I needed that, and I started to tear up a little bit. Yeah, so check on your peoples, And like I said earlier, you know, supposedly, you know, Young Noble struggled financially and mentally. I don't know which one came first, but I will say having lack of money, man, it's tough. I've been there. For anybody who's there, like I pray that, you know, you're not there for too long because, you know, something good's gonna happen, not because you're gonna do something, okay? We're not gonna do that. You know, I hope you get that job, you start that business, or whatever, you hit that lotto, the numbers hit, whatever your thing is. I hope that you're able to come up, because I like to see people win. And that rap money, it dries up. It dries up quickly for many people. You know, a lot of these folks, they're not making money how they're showing. You know what I'm saying? The money's not there like that. Some people are, don't get me wrong, there's some people in the music industry who are doing really well. But also you gotta understand the way songs are split. It could be, let's say we have a pie, right? We got a pie, and the pie is 100% of a song. And it varies from like hip hop and pop songs are split differently in many cases. If you have a song with, let's say, like how I used to do it, it was one producer and one MC. We split every song 50-50. You do the beats, I do the lyrics, and you know, the hook and all that. But let's say a group like Wu-Tang. Let's say you have a song, and I don't know how Wu-Tang splits their songs. I don't know. I'm just saying it could look like this. You got the pie. Let's say RZA makes the beat, 50% goes to RZA. Let's say Method Man writes the hook. He might get 25%. And let's say 4 other dudes are rapping. Let's say Method Man is one of them. He might get a chunk of that other 25%, and then the other 3, they split that other 25%. I'm not saying that this is how Wu-Tang does it, but it could look like this. I don't know. It could be that they have 10 dudes, RZA, and everybody raps a verse, and they split everything 10%. I don't know. But songs are broken up like that, and God forbid you sample. Because if you sample, that's another person you gotta pay. And I've seen, back in the day, I saw a song split for a song that Swiss Beats produced for Cassidy, and the person who was sampled had like 95% ownership of the song, and I think it was like 2.5 and 2.5 split for Cassidy and Swiss Beats. So, not saying every song's like that, but that pie could be cut into so many slices. Imagine getting a pizza and cutting it into 75 slices. You know what I'm saying? Like, it can't look like that, especially with hip hop. It gets really, really just the amount of paperwork and stuff when you're sampling and stuff. It's such a pain. That's why the people who worked in jazz were so much happier and less stressed, because you might have a jazz trio and they split everything 33.33, 33.33, 33 point, maybe one person gets 0.34 or something like that. And it's just easier. And they're not sampling anything. It's like we're playing everything ourselves and we're writing everything ourselves. So, yeah. Another thing I learned about when I was doing research for this video is I had no idea that Hussein Fatal passed away. Hussein Fatal was another outlaw. Some people would say he was Tupac's right-hand man. Probably the most popular of the outlaws, maybe. I think between him and Idi Amin, probably. So rest in peace, Hussein Fatal. I had no idea. And I was gonna talk about this. I wasn't gonna say his name, but until I found out he passed away, and not in like a disrespectful way. But when I say that rap money dries up quickly, I used to work at a major record label. This is like 2008, maybe. I was working in the publishing department, and I had 2 bosses. I was just answering phones. One boss was head of rock and jazz, and the other was head of urban music for the West Coast. And I get a call. I would get like calls from all types of people, but Hussein Fatal called one day. And my boss wasn't there, so I was like, can I take a message? He was like, yo, tell him I want to sell all my Tupac publishing. I want to sell all my Tupac publishing. Now, I can't speak for everybody, but a lot of times when people want to sell their publishing, it's because they need the money. And like I said, not to shame Hussein or anything like that. It's just a reality of the music industry and a lot of industries. A lot of folks aren't balling like that, you know? And then, you know, you have those songs. Let's look at the song splits. If the Outlawz are what, 5 people, 4 or 5? I don't know how many of them there are, but like, let's say you have a song with Tupac and like 4 Outlawz. That's 5 people already. So that pie is gonna get cut. And then the producer, you know. So yeah. Learn how to make your own beats. Try not to sample if you want to save money. Now keep in mind, if you got 13 players on YouTube, like you might be all right. I'm talking about like if you're trying to like release that music and hopefully make money off of it and all that, just you got somewhat of a following, get original sounds or just sounds that you can use. I really wish that labels had like money management programs, you know, how they have like life skills and stuff like that. Financial, basic courses or something, like something that like how they used to have it. They don't have it anymore, but like artist development, like they would teach you how to interview and all that stuff. I wish that there was like some money management, money basics, you know, 401k. I mean, the guy in marketing has one. Like, why can't the rapper have one too? You know, I'm sure that's well above my head, and you know how I feel about math. But yeah, it's really unfortunate because, you know, people talk about like how out of like the major sports leagues, the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and hockey, those are the 4 largest leagues, but the NFL guys tend to do really bad financially after their careers are over. And the NFL essentially hires 7 new people every year. They don't all make the team, but you know, you have hundreds of dudes coming into the NFL every year. You don't have hundreds of rappers signing to major deals every year. It's like it was Kendrick this year. It's gonna be Kendrick next year. We gonna hear some J. Cole, Clips, and 7 other dudes. You know, and 4 or 5 girls. Like they can all fit in this apartment. But you have the NFL, who's got what, like 3,300 players, and a lot of them don't do well after their careers. And they actually have some programs where they teach them stuff. you know? So yeah, I wish the music industry has something like that. You know, I look at guys like I think of guys like Rich Boy. Remember, throw some D's on it. I'm aging myself, but I'm dating myself. Rich Boy selling that on the face, on the jack, that bought a Cadillac, throw some D's on it. That record was crazy, but you know, I saw, and I hope he's doing better, but I saw allegedly was a video of him just like not doing well. Like really bad, like checking on him, is he doing okay? He looks really, really bad. I hope he's doing better. I hope maybe I'm wrong and it wasn't even him. And whoever that brother was that I did see, I hope you're doing well if it wasn't Rich Boy. But yeah, you know, speaking of the rap money drying up, this is maybe 8 years ago, I came across this young man who was homeless. I'm talking to him, I hear an accent. I was like, yo, where you from? New York. Cool kid, natural swag. You could tell like he's not faking it. Like he's got natural personality, just dripping. And I'm getting to know him. I'm like, yo, what's the situation, man? I'm homeless. And he tells me that he's trying to get into the music industry. And I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And he goes, do you know who so-and-so is? And he mentioned like this legendary hip hop group from way, way back in the day. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, have you heard of so-and-so? And he mentions this guy's name who's a part of the group. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna put it in the comments, don't ask. And I was like, yeah. He goes, that's my pops. And I was like, word? He's like, yeah. I said, well, why don't you just go through him to get into the music industry? And he said, my dad hates the music industry and he won't help me because of that. He just despises it. And to this day, he tours because he has to. He does not want to tour anymore. He absolutely has to because he needs the money. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. And he said he had the opportunity to invest back in the day, and I want to say it was like 3 brownstones in Brooklyn or something like that. That in 2008, he said that they would have been worth probably around like in total $6 million. Who knows what that would be worth in 2025? But he lived the life, you know. He had the cars and you know, just outside, and he had all the chains and all that stuff, you know, the what rappers buy. And he was very upset about that, you know. But I wonder where that young man is now. I try to find his stuff on YouTube. I used to know what it was called. I just don't remember the name. But I hope you're doing well. You and your cousin, who was also homeless. And I hope that you have not sold your soul the way you said you would be willing to do to get into the music industry. He actually told me that. Because he was broke, sleeping on the streets. He's like, man, I'll do anything to get to the music industry. I'll sell my soul, I don't care. And I was just like, wow, I was really sad to hear. But it makes you wonder about some of the things that people do to get into the music industry. Yeah. And I've heard stories. Definitely. So yeah, man, check on your peoples. Ask how they're doing. You know, I'm nosy. I'll ask you how you're doing financially. I have no shame doing that. You know, just with people I feel comfortable doing that with. But no, actually, I'll do that to anybody, really. Yeah, just check in on your folks. Again, rest in peace to young Noble. You know, shout out to him, his family, Stic, all the Outlawz. And if you're thinking of doing something to yourself, please don't. Please talk to somebody. Call this number. I believe they text as well. Just reach out. Put something in the comments. Like let's chat for real. I can't guarantee that I could solve all the problems, but I've had these conversations with quite a few people, so I feel comfortable doing that. But definitely, you know, get some help. And like Tupac said in that song Bomb First, reconsider before you die. Reconsider before you die. It was more like, reconsider before you die. But yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. It's never the answer. Removing yourself from earth, and I'm gonna assume that you're a fairly decent human being. I'm not talking about, you know, just other folks out here doing all types of goofy stuff, like super goofy stuff. I'm gonna assume that you're a decent person. Not perfect, just not a horrible human being. It is never, ever, ever the answer. Never. I don't care. Husband left you, wife left you, kids hate you, lost your job, you took a shower at the beach. It's never the answer. It's never the answer, ever. 0% of the time, okay? 0%. So please reconsider. Rest in peace, young Noble, part-time adult. Peace.